This is Joe Queer from the Infamous Queers. You're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dogbowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Joe Queer of the Queers.
Yeah, they just got back from a summer tour.
And they're hitting the road in August across Florida, Louisiana, and Texas. Get out there and see them.
Yeah, and he's also in the process of writing a new book, correct?
I think so.
Hey, let's get to that interview.
All right, good night.
Good night. Joe, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Joe, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hello, Mr. Jeff. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you for the correspondence. Thank you for your willingness to participate. We're excited to have you tonight. This is awesome. Thanks and welcome.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to do it. Thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. So recently you returned home from a tour, I guess, last week? Can you talk a little bit more about the schematics of this past tour?
Yeah, well, we did about a month and a half ago, we did Western Canada. We did Vancouver, up through the Rockies, Golden and Rossland, up to Edmonton, then Red Deer, which is just between Edmonton and Calgary, and south of Edmonton, and then over to Saskatoon and Winnipeg, and then down through Fargo, Minneapolis, and Omaha, I think it was. And then we just finished Eastern Canada, and it was Halifax over to London and Toronto, and we ended in Hamilton, Ontario. And so we did Eastern and we did Western and then Eastern, and it went great. It was amazing. We weren't quite sure what to expect. We hadn't been up there in a few years because of COVID and everything, but almost every show was packed, most sold out. So it was really something else. We had a ball. So.
With this tour being so Canadian heavy, does the band have a stronghold up there in Canada, or was this just kind of a coincidence?
I don't know. We've always had a pretty good following, and of course it was kind of like we're with Teenage Bottle Rocket and sort of a co-headlining thing. They opened up for us, or played before us, I should say, but kind of a co-headlining thing. And so I think the two bands together just was a great draw. Also playing into that, though, is it doesn't seem that there's a ton of bands touring lately. So they were not starved for music, but certainly ready to see some live bands. So I think it was just kind of a perfect storm for that tour, and it just came out really good,
Fantastic. Jeff, you got the next one?
Well, yeah, and then you guys got coming up here in August. You're going through Florida, Louisiana, and Texas with the Jasons. You got. Can you tell us a little bit about your upcoming dates?
Yeah, yep, we're going. Yep, Florida over to Texas. We end in McAllen, Texas. We're going with the Jasons, who we love. We've toured with them a couple of times, and this great band from St. Louis I've recorded at my studio, the Radio Buzzkills, and they're a great little pop punk band. And so yeah, the three of us are going out. Kind of just, we've talked about doing a tour together. The Buzzkills wanted to go with us, and then the Jasons, they wanted to do a little tour, and so we just got it together kind of out of fun. And so yeah, we're looking forward to it. Both those bands are really good. I think a step up musically from a lot of pop punk bands out there. So yeah, we're looking forward to it, but I think those are going to be well attended, and so we'll see what happens.
Awesome. When at this part of your career, when the Queers are going out for a tour run, what generally is a normal tour run for you and the rest of the band? Do you guys look for like a 30 days, or how does it work for you?
We kind of go with whatever we're offered. Bottle Rocket kind of quarterback this other tour as far as length. They only like going out for a couple of weeks, so we let them be the lead on that. We like to do 3 to 4 weeks. Once we get together, we enjoy touring a lot. I got a great lineup, and we have a lot of fun. So yeah, 3 to 4 weeks is good for us. So I know Joey Ramone told me the secret to the Ramones' longevity is they would never go longer than 3-week tours. They could handle 3 weeks, and that was it. So that was their secret, and how they were able to keep touring for so long. And I think a lot of bands, yeah, you kind of figure out what everybody can handle, and so that's we went to Europe the last time for 6 weeks, which was pretty long for us, but yet that was kind of how the tour worked out money wise, and we kept getting offered good shows and good money, so we're like, yeah, sure, we'll stay longer. So we kind of wing it every tour. We don't have a vast set of rules, on how long we'll go.
Very good.
Can you tell us a little bit about your current lineup with the band and your on the road dynamics?
Yeah, well, for a few years we were doing 4-piece where I was on vocals. I wasn't playing guitar.
Okay.
And then I was just singing. So which is a lot of fun. And then we've looked and looked for trying to find a steady bass player, and we can't seem to latch on to that guy. We found some good bass players, but just nobody that really gels with us. So this year I went back on guitar, and we've been 3-piece. So Ginger went from guitar to bass, and I jumped back on guitar, and Hoglog from Teenage Rehab, Alex, we call him Hoglog, he's on drum.
Oh, very good.
And those guys, I think Ginger's been with us now like 6 years, and Hoglog's been there since, back to the basement 10 or 11. So it seems to me like they just got here, but we've been together, a while and done a lot of touring, and we really seem to gel, and we have fun. We have a lot of fun. Yeah, no fighting, and just they enjoy it. The secret with us, I think, is you got to be with people that are enthusiastic about going, but also we don't drink. I've been sober for years now, and then they don't smoke pot or drink, those guys, and so it makes it a lot easier. We just have fun, and they really enjoy it, and I do too, and so it all kind of works. You get some of these guys that just aren't into it. It sucks to have them around. They'll kind of drag you down, but but the lineup we got now is really strong, and I think we're just going to stick with 3-piece for a while. Though I'd like to go back on vocals, to be honest, but we're going to kind of keep looking for a bass player, but we'll see how it goes. So it's kind of fun though. Me jumping on guitar, jumping on vocals, it keeps it fresh, and I don't know. It's fun for us, I guess. So,
well, this is a question I always love to ask. Yeah. So, since you're a guitar player and lead singer, how do you view yourself? Do you view yourself as the guitar player that sings, or are you the lead singer that also plays guitar?
I think guitar player that sings lead vocals, but that's how I'm known. Because most people, it's so funny because I'm just like a Johnny Ramone steady rhythm player, and when I went to vocals, everybody's like, after every gig, like, how come Joe's not playing guitar? Does he have carpal tunnel? Is he getting too old? Blah, blah. And I'm like, I love singing as much as playing guitar. And it was just kind of a thing where we couldn't find a bass player type thing. But I mean, I'm certainly not like Jimi Hendrix, I was like, what's the big deal? Nobody cared about my guitar playing. All of a sudden now you miss it, And, but anyway, it is just being the lead vocalist, and so we learned a lot. But as a band, it's simple. A lot of kids are like, oh, it's just punk rock, but we don't view it like that. We kind of like really take it serious. We learned from touring with the Dickies a lot. That band, they've been together. They make me look like a spring chicken, and I'm pretty long in the tooth now. And but if you sit backstage, those guys, the songs they play, they sound like the album. I mean, even after all this time, they sound amazing. And so in my band, Hoglog and Ginger and I, we really take that to heart. And it gives us something to work towards. We're always trying to play as good as the Dickies. And because they're so tight, they're such a great band. And so we learned a lot from them. But every night after, in the van on the way back to the hotel, or, we always kind of critique our performance and always kind of tweak, see where we can tweak stuff. And we know it's not going to be 50% better, but, just that little bit. We always try to improve, like, oh, we went too fast here. And so we kind of are really serious about that. And so it makes it fun, rather than just blog, play the same old tunes. We just always try to improve, and we'll play different songs and see what worked and what didn't work. So it kind of keeps it fresh. I know that's kind of a trite term, but it keeps it fresh and kind of fun for us night in and night out.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Jeff, you got the next one?
Well, let's talk a little bit about Reverberation. That was 2021's album. You guys had a covers album.
Yeah.
You guys are no stranger to covers. You've had them sprinkled out throughout your some of your past releases. But can you talk about the concept behind recording a full-fledged covers album?
Yeah, well, Cleopatra, we met them somehow. Oh, we did a few songs here and there. They did a Christmas comp, and so we did a song for that. And then they did a Halloween comp and album, and so we did a song for that. And then that's how we met them, and they said, would you like to do a cover album? And I said, yeah, sure, yeah, we're down. And sort of like, our version of the Ramones' Acid Eaters.
Yeah.
I was friends with Joey Ramone, not best friends or anything, but I knew him fairly well. And some of our best conversations were about Acid Eaters and what I thought of that. And Joey was really interested in what I thought and what songs I felt they could have done and should have done, and maybe what they shouldn't have done, and all that stuff. He wasn't a big fan of that album, he told me. So, anyway, so it was kind of an answer to that. We're like, all right, let's just have fun. On Be True to Your School and Dead Man's Curve, I kind of took those songs and envisioned them as if I wrote them and kind of changed them up a little bit. So I wanted to have a little fun with it, and that's what we did there. And some of those songs were songs I had mentioned to Joey, actually, that I thought they could do. Gas Money, Hungry by Paul Revere, Be True to Your School. Dead Man's Curve was one I had talked to Marky about doing. We never recorded it when I played guitar for him off and on for a year or two. So anyway, I don't know. It was kind of like let's have fun type thing and see what happens. So there wasn't a whole lot of thought behind it, but let's have fun and throw shit at the wall and see what sticks type of thing. And Cleopatra was into it. So that's where it came from, really.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a fun record.
Yeah, I thought it came out good. There's always stuff I wish I had done different, but my favorite song is Gas Money, the old Jan, and not even Jan and Dean, Jan and Arnie.
Yeah.
So I thought that came out really good, and we kind of did it as an afterthought. We did a bunch of songs, and some didn't make the cut, and that was like an afterthought song. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh man, that one came out great. So it's funny. It's funny, like on our last album, Save the World, I was telling someone I just recorded a session. A band came down to do demos for their next album. And anyway, I said the two songs we thought were going to be the best songs for the Queers album, Save the World, we never ended up even doing. So it's funny how stuff works out and where songs will go and what, I try to keep an open mind, and you never know what'll work and what won't. It's kind of funny because, like, I remember Joey Ramone called me on a Saturday morning, and he was working on a solo album, and he said, hey, let me play a song. And he held his phone up to the speaker, and he played me What a Wonderful World. And I remember I asked what the song was, and he said, oh, it's What a Wonderful World. And I said, by Louis Armstrong? And he goes, yeah, you know that? And I said, yeah, I used to play trumpet in the band for 14 years, buddy. I know What a Wonderful World. And in those few seconds before the song started, I was just dumbfounded that he had covered that song. I couldn't envision how he covered it. And it was really such a great arrangement and great song, and he really made it his own. So I was really surprised on that one. So anyway, you never know. You never know you have preconceived notions, but you just never know where these songs will end up, which makes it kind of fun,
Absolutely. Well, Love Songs for the Retarded is my favorite Queers album. Maybe it's due to Ben Weasel producing that album. I don't know. He's such a cool guy. But regardless, Ursula Finally Has Tits is my favorite track on that album. Can you talk a little bit more about that track and even the creation of that album?
Yeah. Well, at that time, Hugh and I we played together in the 80s. Late 80s down in Boston with J.J. Razor I met Hugh O'Neill, our drummer, and we were playing in the 80s down around Boston with various members, and we kind of did the stuff that ended up on our Grow Up album. We played the Rat a lot. We never toured or anything. And anyway, we would practice. I owned a restaurant at the time in New Hampshire, and we met B-Face, and he jumped on bass, and we kind of just played for fun. We had no idea that, we were thinking maybe we would do an album that I would put out by myself, and that would be it. And that was Love Songs for the Retarded. And then we met Ben Weasel, and they ended up doing My Brain Hurts on Lookout. And I was familiar with Green Day, but anyway, it was kind of an odd thing where we hadn't planned on really doing anything except like a one-off album. And then we met Ben Weasel, and Green Day was getting big, and Screeching Weasel did My Brain Hurts. And then Larry Livermore, I was working at my restaurant, and he called up and said, do you want to do an album? We had sent him some demos from Love Songs. And so we did it, and it was kind of a weird thing where we hadn't planned on being on Lookout Records, but Ben got us our foot in the door, and then Green Day got huge, and, it's kind of a weird thing. But because I owned a restaurant, and I was going to buy another one in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I just thought that would be my life, I just didn't think I was going to be able to play music. And I always wanted to, but anyway, so that's how Love Songs, we were just practicing on weekends. We were open 6 days a week. On Sundays, the Queers, me, B-Face, and Hugh would get down we had a bar at my place, and we would go down there and rehearse and drink beer and just practice and have fun with it. And that's where all that stuff came from. We were getting a little name in New Hampshire, and there was a punk scene up there then. We'd go to Portland, Maine, and And so, but anyway, so yeah, that's how it came together. Now, Ursula was just a young girl that used to come to the shows, and she kept saying, "Write a song about me, write a song about me." And then one day, someone was like, "Do you notice Ursula's kind of getting tits?" We always, watched out for her as a little sister type thing, but someone said that. We're like, "Geez, we really got to watch out for her now, keep an eye on her." But anyway, so we played at the University of New Hampshire. NoFX was playing, and we were like the biggest little punk band in the area. So they asked us to open up, and that was the first time we played. It was opening up for NoFX at University of New Hampshire. And when we announced the song, and we played it for everybody. And so, yeah, that's where it came from. Ironically, you guys, Ursula moved to Atlanta, where I live now. Well, I'm in Marietta, Georgia, but anyway. And she's a realtor down here, and she does quite well. She's very successful. And she has come to a show or two the past few years, so I am in touch with her. But it's so funny that Ursula from Ursula Finally Has Tits is here in Atlanta, and I'm still in touch with her, and she's a realtor down here now and still loves the song. So it's kind of funny, man.
Fantastic. Jeff, you got the next one?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's talk. You kind of alluded a couple times to Save the World. That album was released in 2020. When did that one come out? Was it towards the beginning of the pandemic, or did you guys hold on to it and release it after everything started happening?
It was right before Reverberation came out, a few months afterwards. So I don't know. It wasn't too much before Reverberation, as I recall, or maybe I can't remember now. To be honest, it's all a blur. But yeah, it was recorded during the pandemic when COVID had hit, and then we had all this time, and I was like, oh man, I gotta record an album. We got to record an album. So we had the time because we tour so much and we have so many songs that. I was like, oh, we've got so many albums out. We've got all these songs. We can't play half of them now. I was never in a rush to do another album. But anyway, so COVID hit, time in our hands. And the great thing with COVID was that we did that album. But I hadn't been really writing songs for a while. And I took my guitar and went in the studio. I've got a studio I run at my house. And I sat down in the chair, you guys. And I sat there, I plugged the guitar in, I got the sounds and everything. And I sat there and I said, I don't have one idea. I don't have one song half written. I just don't have anything. And I said this prayer kind of half out loud. And I said, Joey, if you and Dee Dee are up there, throw me a bone because I do not have anything and I need help, man, because I don't know if I can even do this. Thank you, brother. And so, bit by bit, I sat down and I went in there every day. And I wrote one song and then I wrote another one. And then, I kind of like that prayer was answered, It's kind of funny. But seriously, that's what I said. That's how I started out with that album. And because of COVID, I was by myself a lot. Hoglog, Alex, our drummer, came down. And then, he did the drum parts and left. And everybody was so worried, we couldn't be together. And we had to be fearful of COVID and all that. So I was by myself, and to kind of make things, and half the fun of recording an album is that, you're telling fart jokes and whatever with guys, you're having fun. And that wasn't there. So I kind of pretended that I was working on Joey Ramone's solo album. And I thought, how would I wouldn't just fart around. If Joey Ramone was here and Danny Ray and I was working on Joey's solo album, I'm going to pretend I'm right there. And that's how I kept that thought through the whole process. If Joey was here, would I fart around and just, be lackadaisical, or would I really be serious about this? And how would I play my guitar if he was standing over me? So I kind of pretended I was working on Joey's album and he was there. I know it's corny, but that's how I approached everything. Is that part good enough? Would Joey like that if he was producing the album? And I kind of held that thought through the whole thing. Corny, I know, but yet it really worked. And I feel it's one of our best albums. I love it. And I wanted to do a follow-up, really spiritually, to Love Songs for the Retarded. So Shirley Needs a Dildo was an outtake from Love Songs that we had way back then that I finished. And I had sent a bunch of song ideas to Ben Weasel. I forgot about that song, but Ben sent me these songs back. He found a cassette tape that I had sent him back for love songs with song ideas, and that was on there. And I go, oh my God, I forgot about that song. So I finished it, and we purposely kept it kind of raw. And the trend in punk rock now with the pop punk seems to be the blasting room and this big production like Screeching Weasel, Freaks of Atavism, and it's going kind of this big production. And I wanted to go back to the good old Lookout era where we recorded on tape and we didn't use auto-tune and we didn't cut and paste and keep it honest and go with that spirit. And it's a little rough around the edges, but we purposely wanted to do it as if we were back in the Lookout era and
awesome.
With that spirit. And so, but I think as far as Queers albums, there's Love Songs, Don't Back Down, and Save the World. They're the start to finish, the three albums I feel I can listen to. There's no, dud songs, and I thought it came out really good. I was really happy with the whole thing. So
yeah, fantastic. Well, I mean, since you've returned from touring, when I contacted you last week, you're already back in the studio recording new music. Can you talk a little bit more about this new music that you got going on here?
That was for, I was recording a band that came in from Minneapolis, the 99ers. They came down to do demos, one of the boys. So that's what I was doing there. However, we had a day off after our last Canada show, and we came down through Buffalo. So we stopped and went into the GCR studios, which is owned by Robbie from the Goo Goo Dolls. The Goo Goo Dolls kind of started that studio. Or I guess it was the studio back in the day. They took it over and built it up, and it became GCR, and like Aerosmith is recorded there, and the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, and James Taylor, and huge acts.
Sure.
Goo Goo Dolls, of course. And so anyway, we know Jay, the engineer there, and we went and we did an original song that I wrote with a girl singer in mind, and so we did track an original song there, and I'm not sure what we're going to do with it, but I've asked Kelly from the Dolly Rots she sang on Save the World, and so I asked Kelly. We recorded the song with her in mind to sing lead vocals, so yeah, it came out really cool. I can't wait to hear her once she sings the thing. So so that was the newest thing we worked on Queers wise. But we're going to do a new album this winter. We'll jump in and I'm starting to work on songs and stuff like that as far as Queers.
Oh, fantastic. We're excited.
Well, you kind of alluded to having a lot of albums, like 13 albums. I think you guys have studio albums. How do you go about picking your set list for when you go out on the road and live? Obviously every band has their core staples that they probably got to play, but how does it work for you guys?
Well, we tried to do different sets, but every time we didn't play Punk Rock Girls or Ursula Funniest Tits or Fuck the World or something, people would complain, I came to see you're tripping. And so we kind of stick with a lot of the staples. We have to, because otherwise people are disappointed. But we don't use a set list. So we are ready at the drop of a hat to go in any different directions or many different directions. And we don't use a set list. And a lot of times I'll just start a song on a guitar or yell it out. And off we go. We kind of, don't have the set list, and we kind of wing it every night and try to mix it up and have those 5 or 6 or 7 different songs from the night before type of thing. I'll tell you, we opened up back in the day. We did a tour with the Nobodies and Chicks Dig It, and we were at La Luna in Portland, Oregon, and Dick Dale had the room. It was a Saturday night, and either we didn't know where we were going to go, but we could open up for Dick Dale. And I said, oh man, no problem. We were selling the place out on our own at the time. This is like 96, I think. Anyway, we opened up for Dick Dale at La Luna, and we were killing it at the time. We could do no wrong. The Queers back then, we did Don't Back Down. We were killing it. We were really playing good. Crowds, every show was packed, sold out. And Dick Dale came out, and it was a real punk rock crowd, and Dick Dale came out and just annihilated us. It was so good. I'd never seen him. Yeah, it was great, you guys. I mean, I was like, stick around for Dick Dale. Well, everybody, it was just so cool. He got up there, and just driving past my neighbor here. He got up there. It was a Queers crowd, and the crowd went bonkers, big, huge pit and everything. Well, Dick Dale gets up there, and we kind of backed him in a corner, I subsequently saw him maybe 20 times total, and he was never as good as this one night when we were playing with him. And because I think we'd backed him in the corner. He had to kind of step up to the plate. And he got out there, and they shone the light on him, and he just had feedback going through his guitar, and then he pulled his right hand off the strings because he's left-handed, and he blew on his fingers, like as if they were too hot. And the crowd went bonkers, and he went into, I think, Miserlou, and just from that moment on, just annihilated us. It was so amazing. I get goosebumps thinking about it. And anyway, that's where I met Dusty Watson, his drummer, and who played with us, and we're very good friends with him now. And he's out with Nashville Pussy now, but he's played with Concrete Blonde and the Super Suckers and Agent Orange and Dick Dale and blah, blah, with everybody. Great drummer. And that's where I met Dusty. And I said to him, because I was watching the whole show from on stage, and I said, you don't have a set list, right? And he said, nope, we've got to have our head up Dick's ass. We don't know if one night he's going to play Jumping Jack Flash and Smoke on the Water, or he's going to do Miserlou and Pipeline. We just don't know, and it keeps us on our toes. And I always thought, what a great way to go about playing. It keeps you on your toes, and everybody's on the same page, and nobody's just mailing it in. And so we've kind of adopted that mantra, sort of, with no set list, and we got to pay attention, and nobody's slouching and just mailing it in, because they never know quite what I'll yell out. I warn them ahead of time, like, hey, I might throw in Mirage, or I might do Janelle. So, they kind of know if I yell it out, they're ready, but yet we're not quite sure. And we sort of, like Mirage, for instance, with the Queers, you can't throw it in the set. It'll be a dud 9 out of 10 times, but that 10th time will give you goosebumps if the crowd's, it's in the right spot in the set. So that's how we approach the whole set, and we kind of wing it. And we have our core set with the staples, as it were, of the songs everybody wants to hear. But then we love veering off, and we'll do Janelle and Mirage, or we'll do Squid Omelet and Goodbye California, or I Don't Want to Get Involved with You, and I'll Be True to You. We just kind of never know. Hawaii from, we have a bunch of songs we'll do from various albums. And so that's kind of how we approach our set list, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we didn't want to talk politics, but this is kind of a political question without being political. But the punk rock scene ideology has changed so immensely from the 80s. In some ways, not for the best, I guess. Can you talk a little bit more about the experiences of the punk rock scene today opposed to back in the day?
Well, I think back in the day, we would meet a lot of people with crazy ideas, but we didn't hate them if they voted differently than us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess that's the biggest difference now, And I kind of just stay neutral. And, I'm so far to the left, I'm off the cliff, but even I get called a Nazi these days. But I think the biggest difference is that back then, we met a lot of people out in Berkeley that we thought were crazy and politically, and they'd say some crazy stuff, but we knew at the, bottom, they were great people, deep down. We never thought they were bad people because they had a different opinion about something.
Right.
And these days, I personally, when people say they vote for this guy or that guy or this, I always try to say why, and listen to them, and whether I agree with them or not, I look at them and, 99% of them are great people and want the same things I do, but they have a different opinion about how to get to that point. And so I always want to hear why they think, you know what I mean? Why, explain themselves. So I think the biggest difference now is you can't explain yourself. I'll have a different opinion about something, which I don't share out in public anymore. I have a couple of times, and I was like, whatever, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. It's just an opinion, whatever. And it's just like people will hate you, and it's like, I was like, always thought, well, geez, I'm the guy who wrote "You're Tripping," about Nazis and racist, back in 1990, and I've sung it a million times. I hate white power. That's not one of my better lines, but it's in there. You know what I mean? And it's still people. If you cross that line, it seems like there's just so much hate out there, and people are just looking to catch you in that aha moment and call you a racist. And it's really changed. I thought there was going to be a little more integrity in the punk rock scene, but a lot of people. I try to kind of keep a neutral stance and also an open mind. And I do know a lot of people have come up to me and thanked me because I'm kind of in the middle, and I'm accepting of everybody. I don't, you know what I mean, unless they're like murderers or something. And so they're happy and they thank me. They're like, hey, dude, thanks for not, I voted for Trump or something like that. Thank you for not hating me. And I go, my life is so great, and I'm so happy with where I am. It's what I dreamt about doing in high school, playing music, and gosh, I'm doing interviews and recording bands, and it's just like what I dreamt about doing. And I don't have enough time to be negative and hate anybody because they vote differently than I do, And so I think the difference back then is just, maybe not in the punk rock scene, just in the world, is that people are just, I don't know, the line in the sand has been drawn. And boy, if you're on the other side or just say the wrong thing, it's just like people want to attack you. And I don't know. But I always grew up reading books and 1984 and Animal Farm and all that stuff, and I see a lot of that stuff, I think, coming to fruition. And a lot of it, I got to say, is from the left wing. I think I always thought the right wing was going to be the one I had to worry about, but I'm almost more worried about the left wing. I think sometimes they've gone off the deep end, but anyway, I just try to be, like I say, my life's pretty good when I get up. Great thing about music is there's always something to get out of bed for in the morning. There's always something going on, man. There's a tour, there's a band coming in, there's a song to be written, and new piece of gear I'm buying for the studio, or just always something going on, some creativity, and that's what I like about it. So I am kind of blessed, but that's the way I approach life. So I'm not too harsh anymore on anybody, and I really don't care who votes for who. I just kind of call it as I see it, type of thing. But that's the biggest difference between now and then. I think people are just less accepting and more apt to just label you quickly without maybe, they don't let you explain, it's weird. So I don't know, it's a weird scene, but yeah. Anyway, that's about it, I guess, politically.
Very good. I wanted to bring this back to the touring subject. We've spoke to many artists returning home from a long tour. Some artists have difficulties resuming to normal life after 30 days, a month and a half, 2 months, whatever. For you, do you have that lull after getting off of a tour? Do you have a hard time adapting to the real life again, or is that something you kind of strive for? Get me back into the real life.
No, not at all. No, it's just, I think maybe if you're in a more famous band, maybe that does, the day-to-day life. It's weird to get back. Now, I used to work on my brother's, I was a commercial fisherman. After I sold the restaurant, I just played in the band. And I've been able to do that to support myself. But my brother, when I lived up in New Hampshire still, he's a commercial fisherman. So I would come off tours and I'd jump on the fishing boat and all of a sudden be out there 100 miles offshore fishing, commercial fishing for a week. So that kind of kept my feet on the ground, as it were. It's just like I never kind of, I don't know, I just kind of always was working class and came from that background. So for me, day-to-day stuff, no, I've got my studio, and so my life is kind of revolved around music, but it's not that hard for me. I just, come back home and I got stuff going on back here. As I get older, I I like being home more. But I'm really busy with music stuff at home too. It's just I'm not out playing shows as much sometimes. But I enjoy myself, and it's still music is such a big part of my life with the studio and stuff. So I never get too far away from it. But as far as the day-to-day stuff, no, I mean, I get home and my wife, I'll be signing some girl's tit, boob one night, and I get home and my wife yells at me because I forgot to pay the electric bill or something, or I didn't buy dog food. And it's just, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh man. The great thing about punk rock is like, you learn to laugh at yourself. Don't take yourself too seriously. And, I don't know. I see a lot of people kind of believe their own bullshit. I don't know. I try not to get too big of a head about it. I'm just in a little punk rock band, but I'm grateful for what I got. And going back to Joey Ramone, the one thing that struck me about that guy, again, I wasn't his best friend, but the one thing, I did know him pretty well. And one time, I'll tell the story, I was walking down the street, one of the few times I was, but we were going to like Coney Island High from the Continental or something. And it was CMJ music thing in New York City at the time. And this TV camera crew saw Joey Ramone. They were driving down the street, and they pulled over, and then they jumped out, and they're like, Joey Ramone from the Ramones, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm going to see the Queers. And anyway, some German guy was drunk. After the camera crew left, some German guy saw him, and he was completely shit-faced, and he's like, oh, my God, Joey Ramone, you're my favorite, hugging him and kissing him, and the guy's drunk and all that stuff. And I was like, whoa, dude, it took us like 10 minutes to get away from this poor drunk German guy. And I said to Joey, I said, how do you put up with that stuff? And he goes, you know what? I am honored that people like my music so much. I never look at that as a job. And I'm always happy. I'm grateful that people, like my music that much. So we always got to be grateful that we get to do this job that not a lot of people get to do. And I kind of took my cue from that, from watching Joey deal with people like that. And he was always grateful. He was always I realized what got him out of bed in the morning wasn't how famous he was or the shows or money he had or, chicks or whatever. He just loved talking about music. He loved the next great song. And what we talked quite a bit about Acid Eaters and 60s covers and what I thought, he should do in a solo album and what I would like to hear. And he was really open to that. And so and he was grateful. He was grateful. And I always try to take my cue from Joey. And I was gracious with the fans, whether they were a pain in the ass or not. We're lucky to be able to do that and find enjoyment in that stuff. And so that's how I kind of approach the whole music thing, So.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, you've also alluded to a couple of times of working with other bands. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started with that and your role with maybe helping develop some younger bands?
With other bands, you mean, recording them and stuff like that? I mean, well, I just like recording, I like the process, the creative process more, trite as it sounds, but I like that. And so now the 99ers came down, and they've got a few albums out. I was aware of them, but I didn't know them. But Steven came down with a bunch of song ideas, and we really worked hard and fleshed them out. Sometimes bands really want a lot of input. Recording, I kind of give them my view, and if they take it, some bands aren't experienced enough, some are, but every band's different. But I just try to be a cheerleader. I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. When we recorded our first 7-inch love songs, We'd Have a Ride Doing Heroin, we worked at a studio in Portsmouth, New Hampshire called Fish Tracks, and it was kind of like a hippie. There was a whole big hippie thing going on up there. Harvey Reid. There was a big, hippie acoustic guitar scene in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And so we go in there to record our first 7-inch, and And it was really, the engineer never smiled at us. And I had a Bandmaster reverb that's like 35 watts, and they were complaining because it was too loud, and they just didn't like us, and they wouldn't let us come back to mix. We didn't finish it because they wouldn't even let us come back to mix, and we weren't causing trouble. We weren't drunk. They just didn't like us that much. They disliked us that much that they wouldn't even let us come back there. Nobody ever smiled at us. It was nice. They wouldn't even let us come back to finish the record. So I went down to this, we found this other studio called Realization that this guy Bob Hearn ran. And so we went down there expecting the same reception. And this Bob Hearn guy loved us. We played him the songs. And he was like, "You guys did this? This is great. Are you kidding me? You guys wrote this?" And he was like a rock and roll hippie guy. But he was just so enthusiastic. And I never forgot that lesson, how much it meant to us that he was really into the fact we had written those songs and that we were recording and we're going to do our own vinyl and the whole thing. And he was such a cheerleader. And I never forgot that lesson, how much it meant to us. I was like, oh, man, thank God someone's nice to us, simply nice to us, you know. And so that was a lesson that I got early on, too. And so sometimes, a lot of times with bands, you just try to be a cheerleader, point them in the right direction. I like it, mainly, you know, because I remember where I came from. And I know sometimes it's, you know, that's all you need is to be pushed in the right direction and stuff and a pat in the back. So that's kind of how I approach. I get a lot of younger bands who will come in. And so everyone's different. But anyway, you know, there are bands like the 99ers where they're going to come back and do their album. And I'm really excited about it because we really worked on the arrangements and stuff and came up with new parts. And really, it's really exciting. They got some great songs. So every session's different, but that's kind of how I approach it. Just be a cheerleader for the bands, you know. It's a lot of fun. It really is.
Fantastic. Nice. Well, throughout the years in your travels and touring, you've met a lot of notable artists out there. Can you share with us some of the artists that you've met throughout the years?
You know, one of the ones I'll tell you about that I really thought was, I'm working on a book, and I mentioned him in the book, is Billy Hinchy. Do you guys remember Dino Desi and Billy from the 60s band? They were, Billy's sister was married to Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys.
Yes.
And Dino Desi and Billy had a hit song. We covered their hit song, I'm a Fool. We did it on our Monkey Brain album. And Billy ended up, that band was like a teeny bopper, 65, 66. The Wrecking Crew, you know, they played on the records and stuff. And I think the kids just sang. It was Dean Martin's son, Dino, Desi, Arnaz, Lucille Ball, and Ricky Ricardo, their kid, and then Billy Hinchy was like the other neighborhood kid, and Dino, Desi, and Billy. Anyway, Billy ended up, his sister married Carl Wilson, and Billy played with Brian Wilson and with the Beach Boys for years and years. He was always friends with all of them, even through all the fights, and so he toured with them on keyboards and guitar and stuff. And anyway, he found out that we covered I'm a Fool, and he came down. He was living in Vegas. He passed away last year, I think. But he came down to the queer show. We played in Vegas, and he hit me up, and he said, "Can I sit in and do I'm a Fool with you guys?" And I said, "Sure." I wanted to meet you. Anyway, Billy, we've got some mutual friends and stuff, Earl Mankey and stuff. So anyway, down comes Billy Hinchy, and he had a 72 Telly with a maple neck. And it was Carl Wilson had died, and Carl gave it to Billy when he knew he was dying. And it was Carl's main touring guitar with the Beach Boys for years. And he gave it to Billy, and I got to play that backstage. I was like, oh, dude, this is great, man. Carl Wilson's Telly, man. Yeah. And anyway, the place, you guys, was a shithole punk club that, like, in a, you know, plaza, a strip mall type place. You know, it was open for about 6 months. It was a shithole. Below us, and there's Billy backstage. You know, it's just like a dump. He just rolled with it, you guys. And I asked him, he ended up playing, sat in with us. We did I'm a Fool. We did a Jumpin' Jack Flash, I think we did The Kids Are All Right by The Who. We just had fun, you know. He jumped up, he sang and stuff, a lot of laughs. Well, we hung out for like 3 hours. He hung out for the whole show and just talking. And anyway, I said to him, I said, Billy, what was your last gig? And he said, he was in, I believe, doing Pet Sounds with Brian Wilson for a week at the Roundhouse in London or something like that, some huge gig. And of course, he only did big gigs, but it was with Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
And there he is, backstage in this shithole punk club, hanging out with the queers, smiling and laughing. And I apologized a few times. I was like, Billy, I'm so sorry about this club. It's like such a dump, and he was like, oh, dude, come on, man. And we had such a lot of laughs, and he was so down to earth. And I thought, this is like a rock star that I want to be like right here, Billy Hinchy. And his next gig was again with Brian Wilson. But anyway, what he told me, he goes, it doesn't get any bigger. He goes, I got to pinch myself that I get to go play with the Beach Boys and play with Brian, because on my side of the street, it doesn't get any bigger than this unless the Beatles reform. And he goes, I'm so lucky that I get to do this, that I can't believe I get to do this. When I'm on stage, I love it. And that's what I was thinking. Geez, what a great attitude. And Joey Ramone had that attitude too, where they're so grateful and enjoy it, and they're just so happy to be where they are in life. And I was like, I try to approach it, and take our victories where we get them on my side of the street, and have that attitude where I'm just grateful what I've got. But Billy and Joey were, really their attitudes were really important to me, and it was great getting to meet him. And that was the only time I met him. We stayed in touch through email and stuff, but I just thought it was so cool. Here's a guy that could ask for green M&Ms and, pink champagne, 42 degrees backstage, all that. But he's hanging with the queers, having fun, letting me play his guitar. He played my guitar, and we're, back and forth and this and that, and telling tour stories with the Beach Boys and what Dino, Desi, and Billy were like. And, these stories back then with the Wrecking Crew. And, he met Phil Spector, and, it was really cool. And I go, man, this is great, dude. What a great, because I've met a lot of guys, and they're, I don't know, insufferable, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Like, God, you've got, you've got hit songs, and you do all this stuff, and you show up and you're arrogant and you're miserable and just come across as a shitty human being. And then you got guys like Joey and Billy Hinchy, and I was like, damn, that's the side of the street I want to be on, So it was really cool to meet him. And that was, again, not to those guys, probably they didn't even think of it, but it really meant a lot to me, so how they operate and stuff, and the attitude to have when you're playing music, and be grateful.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
I got one last question for you. I ask this question to all of our guests.
Oh, boy.
The mystery of rock and roll. It's no longer a thing with the internet. Social media has taken the mystery away from rock and roll. Through any genre of rock and roll, whether it be metal, classic rock, punk rock, you name it, the mystery is gone. For you, the artist and the fan, what do you prefer, the mystery and mystique, or do you like this new age of accessibility? Because if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't be doing this with you right now.
I kind of liked I like both, but I did like the mystique of the rock star. It's funny, I was thinking about this yesterday, and rock stars back then were almost like from another planet, like they had the key to the universe, they had gone up the mountain and met the old man on the mountain and got the message from him. And that's how they were viewed, that's how I looked at these guys. If I could only just roadie for Bob Dylan, I could get the meaning of life and all that stuff. So I don't know. I like a little bit of both. I guess it's a cop-out answer, but I certainly like the old mystique of the rock stars, and I don't know. I just think it was better. Sometimes it's just artists are a little too accessible, and I don't know. So I like the mystique of the rock star type, more than the accessibility, I guess. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
We're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
Nope. Just hopefully we'll see people on our next tour. Check out the Radio Buzzkills and the Jasons and all that. But no, it's been fun talking to you guys, and thank you for letting me do it. And yeah, hopefully we'll meet and our paths will cross. But I appreciate you guys doing it. It's been a fun interview.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, this is how things are going to work out. We're about 3 weeks behind on our episode, so in about 3 weeks, Jeff, the editing wizard, will get this all cleaned up for us, make it sound all pretty. And I'll send it to you, and please share it wherever you possibly can.
Oh, yeah, we will. We'll get it right up on the page and everything, yeah. But, no, thank you guys so much. This is great, and, yeah, I had a lot of fun. You guys are good interviewers and stuff, so you did a good job. It was fun.
Oh, thank you so much.
No problem. Hey, real quick, where are you guys located anyway?
Yeah, it's called the Quad Cities. We're in Rock Island, Illinois. There's Davenport, Iowa.
Right,
Illinois.
Okay, right. Quad Cities, yeah, Davenport. Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, I was just curious where you were. So, yeah. But anyway, you guys, yeah, take care. Thank you so much. And, yeah, send that over, and we'll post it for sure.
All right, man. I'll be in touch with you in 3 weeks. Sound good?
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, you guys. Take care.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everybody pulls the plug and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. They roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The Sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.